Hello, 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 and welcome to another road trip edition of Reality Rights. I am author Ellie Alexander, and this is the podcast where we discuss all things bookish. I'm back with my personal chauffeur.
I'm the tech guy, and we're still driving a week later. Oh, dirty little secret. Sometimes if we have time, we record more than one of these. What?
No,
It's the magic of podcasting.
this is a magic of podcasting. Well, last season we did an episode about everything that goes into releasing a book and launching it out into the world. And today we are tackling the follow-up. And I have a lengthy list, let me tell you, of everything that happens once the book is published. So for any of you darlings who are writers, I think this one will be of big interest to you because we're going to talk about marketing strategies, advertising, all of the things that go into continuing to get your book out in front of new readers. And for the darlings who are readers, I hope that you'll find this interesting in terms of the amount of work that we do to keep those books in your hot little hands.
That's right. Two things, though. First of all,
Yes.
one, I just realized we are in season 2, aren't we?
We're in season 2.
We never even said that. It's like this will be episode 3 of 2025 because our first episode came out on January 2nd.
That's right. Yeah,
Wow,
exactly.
it's crazy.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2 things. What's the other thing?
The other thing was, I forget. I'll remember it. It was super important, I'm sure.
Something about the new season, 2025, marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Okay. All right. That's fine. So we'll get to it. So I talk about this all the time with my writing students, and I don't think many of them believe me until after they have published their first book, which is there is at least as much, if not more, work that goes into after the book is launched out into the world, right?
Well, that's really when all my work kicks in.
Yes.
I feel like leading up right up until launch, and then once the book launches, the bulk of it happens after the fact. Yes.
Yeah, so let's start with sort of launch day and launch week. And if you want, we'll make sure that we link to basically like part 1, which talks about everything that's happening prior to that. But one of the first things that needs to be done is you have to go through and update things like A+ content, pre-order links,
Your
website, any sort of social media banners.
Yeah, but so, and this is just more of a pet peeve thing than anything, but because books, especially traditionally published books, but even indie published books, are always available for pre-order before they're released, and so the links usually say pre-order, releases so 2025 or whatever. Then when it comes out, you don't want the links to still say pre-order because readers will think, oh, well, there'll always be time to pre-order later, when it gets closer to release day, and they won't realize, oh, it's out. They get so you need to change those links, buttons, graphics, everything. All the messaging needs to switch from pre-order over to buy now, read now, that sort of thing. And instead of saying releases on, January, whatever 2025, you change it to released on January whatever 20,
Or out now, or available. Yeah, exactly.
available everywhere.
That makes me think of 2 things. Number 1, when I did a post on Facebook to share that we had launched the first episode of season 2 of Reality Rights, I saw that I have not updated the Facebook cover for A Holiday Homicide. It still says releasing November 20th. Yes, yeah.
See, there you go.
There you go. And the second part of that is with my publishing houses, like let's take Storm, for example. They send me pre-launch assets. So it will be things like everything the tech I just talked about, teasers with the covers, little clips of or little chunks of reviews, things like that. And then there's a whole other set of assets that are for launch day and after. The same thing goes for like once the book is on sale, like if they're doing a special 99-cent promo, then there's another chunk of assets that I receive from the publishing houses too. Or if it's us, you're making those.
Yeah, and because we have checklists for this stuff, we should put something together for people to download sometime.
Yeah, that's on the list of the course refresh.
I remember what number 2 was.
Okay, good.
I was just gonna give my usual spiel about, hey, share this podcast with a friend. Sharing is caring. But we just want to grow the community. So, the more people that hear about reality rights, hopefully the more writers we can help, more readers we can inform about books and all the cool things behind the scenes of publishing and writing. So, send it to a friend. Let them know about reality rights.
Yeah,
There you go.
I love it. Thanks for that. I mentioned updating A+ content. That's specific to Amazon. And so do you want to just talk briefly about that for readers and or new writers who might not be familiar with?
Yeah, so when your book is listed on Amazon, you may notice when you go to some books website, not all of them, but they all have the opportunity to do this, but it is extra work. There's everything that's kind of below the fold, BTF, is referred to as A+ content, and that's you'll see graphics with like reviews and maybe images that are related to the book and things like that. Uh, uh, Quick synopses of the story and everything, but just in graphical format, and all that's called A+ content. And it's something that if you have your book listed on Amazon, either if you indie publish, you can do it yourself, and if you're traditionally published, your publisher will need to do it because it has to be done through the account. But many times you'll want to update that after the book comes out because reviews will get released that you'll want to have included in there, and maybe you have new promo content about the book and everything that you want, or if you had any pre-order messaging in your A+ content, you want to change it out there too.
Yeah, so this is all happening day of or the week of release. Sometimes if we forget one of them, like I will update my Facebook banner when we get back from this road trip. This is all sort of timely right as the book is releasing. Sharing reviews is next on my list. Because of the way that reviews work, sometimes if you're using NetGalley, then those reviews come in through the publishing house or through you as an indie author in advance of launch. But most reviews and many of the book sales sites like Amazon, Goodreads, etc., don't allow, no, actually Goodreads does allow it now, don't allow readers to post reviews until release day. So you as the author get hopefully like a lot of lovely, nice, kind reviews that you can then share so that another reader might find their way to Tort or The Secret Bookcase or Up to Leavenworth.
Yeah, and you just because the book is released doesn't mean that you should stop soliciting reviews. So once the book is released, that's the time to start marketing to your readers, to your base, to your social media followers and everything, to ask them if they read the book and they enjoyed it to please leave a review. Whether that's on social media or preferably on, Amazon, Barnes and Noble and Goodreads and places like that where people do read reviews, because the trade reviews are great, but reviews from actual readers, I feel like, carry even more weight because they're super authentic, right? Hearing from another reader about their experience with a book, I think goes a lot farther than like the New York Times saying this book was great. Anyway, that needs to continue after that, because once your book is out, people are going to stop. They're going to start finishing it. So, well, some people the same day, but for the rest of us that read at normal speeds, usually within a week or so of a book being released, they're going to finish it, and it's good to get those reviews when it's fresh in their minds, and also when the book was first released, getting those reviews out there and driving more interest in the book will help the book rank higher in all the places books are sold.
Well, and the way the algorithms work now is the amount of reviews, like your book might get shown to more readers looking for something in that same genre. So there are lots of reasons for that. And including and sharing reviews from readers should be an ongoing part of your marketing strategy, not just right after or during release week. That's something to pepper into your content at least once a month or so. Which is another thing that I'm not always great about remembering to do.
And right, yeah, I mean, it because all this stuff takes time, but there are means of doing it that are a lot easier. Like Canva has some, amazing templates that you can just choose a photo or change the image colors to your brand colors and drop the reviews in there, and then you can make, a half dozen or more of those in like the 20 minutes or less.
Yeah.
So that
And then they're ready to
yeah, they're ready to go, and Canva can automatically resize things, so you can share on Instagram, Facebook, X, wherever you want, to share that pretty easily.
And the great thing about that too is the reviews are evergreen, so you can just share something that you shared 2 months ago, again, as a new way to, connect and find new readers. Okay, another important thing is ad campaigns. So on the traditional side, the publishers run ad campaigns, and that could be anything from Facebook to Amazon ads to BookBub, Goodreads. If you're publishing independently, the onus is on you to create those ad campaigns. And that's another thing that you want to keep a close eye on, and be constantly updating and changing. And you can speak a little more to that.
Yeah, and we will do more about this in your course and content associated with that and everything. But the big thing here is to know what you're doing before you spend any money on advertising. Don't just go out there and buy ads with specific keywords and throw money at it, hoping that it will stick. You're gonna want like spending money on book advertising or advertising for any product, but especially book advertising. You're going to want to make sure that you know what you're doing going into it, that you have a solid plan, and that you're able to that you have the time to constantly monitor it, because you could end up spending a lot of money without a lot of return. The good thing is most of those platforms like Meta, it was Facebook and Instagram and Amazon and everything, that you can set a like daily or weekly or monthly budget. So, if you only want to spend $2 a day, you can do that. And it's not, that is kind of a protection. But even $2 a day, you want to make sure you're spending that wisely.
Yeah. Well, and can you talk a little bit about, sort of the how you get to track that then too, in terms of seeing whether your ads are working?
Yeah. So all the platforms have just incredible levels of detail in terms of, who's seeing your ads and which keywords or phrases are performing better than others. And you can set it to, you can set them all to optimize themselves automatically, or you can do it manually. And there are pros and cons to both. Obviously, if you don't really know what you're doing or don't have a lot of time to monitor the campaigns, using the automated features is okay. You're not always going to get almost never get the best results doing that, because obviously the companies that design these platforms, they want your stuff to perform well, but to perform well for both you and them.
Yeah.
They want to make more money off the advertising, so you'll be spending a little bit more if you use all automated stuff. There are services out there that can do this for you too, but like on Facebook, for example, you can drill down and pick like the the specific audience, like age range, gender, interests, everything that you want to see your book as. So you can make sure that people who are, if you're a romance writer, you can target romance readers, and make sure that people who read like hard-boiled crime or horror aren't seeing your ads, and which would just be a waste of money.
Absolutely. And this is yet another thing that it's not a set and forget. You want to constantly be looking at that, like you said, tracking it, checking back in. And I would add, no one is going to know your book better than you. No one knows my series, what I imagine. So I think trying not to go the route of having it just dialed in by somebody else or by the algorithm is the best option, because you're going to be able to be like, oh no, I know readers who love Stephen King. If you're writing horror, that's not a great example because he's a huge name, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, that leads us to the next thing on my list, which is bookstore outreach. Another thing that is a constant in a writer's life is connecting with bookstores, events, signings, pop-ins to sign stock. Like on a road trip like this, if we're stopping through, I might go to like a Barnes and Noble in San Luis Obispo and go, "Oh, hey, I'm just driving through, but I'm in town. Do you want me to sign whatever you have on the shelves?" And they're always like, "Well, yes, please," because then a reader comes in and gets a bonus signed copy. So things like that. If you are traditionally published, your publicist might work with you to organize events. They'll also want to know your travel schedule. That's one of the things that you fill out when you first sign a contract so that they have a sense. And then that's something that they ask and update throughout the year too, to say, like, "Oh, you happen to be going to Florida. Well, great. While you're in Florida, do you have a day or two to pop into these stores?" And then they'll potentially arrange that for you. If you're an indie author, you can do that legwork ahead of time yourself. And then being strategic about looking at what other kinds of conferences, like small mini festivals, any sort of event that is happening tied to a bookstore or any sort of literary fest that you might want to be doing outreach for. And those sort of bigger events are usually 2-3 years out. Like we're already set for Mystery Fest for 2025, and I have a soft list of authors for 2026 already. And the same is true for bigger conferences like that. So, yeah, anything
Yeah, well,
on that?
I think that is one thing to think about when you're thinking of a book release date is what does your calendar look like for the month after the book releases? Because that's when ahead of time you're going to want to do the outreach. But even once the book releases, you should be doing more. You continuing that outreach and have the availability to go do a book talk or a signing or whatever the bookstore has time for you to do. Just make sure that you have the time available. And that's something that we learned very early on because and some of it was very difficult because for the first like 10 bake shops or 10 or 12 bake shops, they all released 2 days after Christmas.
Yes.
So it was
Talked about
very
that.
like yeah, which I know you've talked about before, but having to like, oh, well, we can't do any travel around that time or anything because you have to be available
Yeah.
for stuff if bookstores want to do things. That is just something to keep in mind to make sure that, for the next 30 days or so, you have the ability to take a road trip or, at least pop by local indie bookshops if they have availability for you to do signings.
Yes, for sure. And then, again, just thinking farther out because like the tech guy saying that first month or so, bookstores are going to be really interested because it's a new release. As time wears on, it's not that they're going to say no, but it might be a little bit of a harder sell. It's always fun if they can get an author in right around the time that a book is releasing. But then looking farther out at your calendar where you could do something like popping in or just saying like, "Hey, I'm visiting your town and I would love to do whatever you have available for me," whether that's an in-store signing, an event, etc.
Right. And also like the one thing is if you can get them scheduled ahead of time to let all your readership know. Make sure you're
Yes.
constantly communicating when these things are going to be, not only so they can attend and everything, but the other thing is for the independent bookstores' sake, so that people don't buy the book ahead of time and then bring it to the store to have it signed. Because
Point.
the whole reason that independent bookstores do author signings is so they can sell books because they're in the business of selling books. So the more you can do in that first month after release, the better.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's such a good point. And also because you want to try to bring in people. Like, yes, the bookstore is going to have their own list of avid readers who will be interested in the event, but they also want authors to bring in new readers to the store so that it's a win-win for both of you.
Exactly.
Okay, well, that takes us to the next long list, which is all kind of clumped together, which is fun marketing events. That's what I'm calling it. Fun marketing events. So, for starters, any sort of in person event collaboration that you can do. This could be, let's say you write a coffee house mystery. This could be going to your local coffee shop and saying, "Hey, I just had this book that came out. What do you think if we did a coffee and book pairing where we do a latte tasting and I read a little snippet of the book and, it's just a fun, free event for readers." For example, with the Sloane Krause mystery series, I went to my local brewery and I was like, "I have this new beer book. What do you think about having a beer tasting?" And they were like, "Yes, 100% yes," because it's great for them.
Right.
They get a whole new clientele in with readers who might have an interest in beer. And it's a way to have an event at a space that maybe needs something fresh to offer.
Exactly. And if you're an indie publisher, make sure that when you're talking to them about doing the event, that it's okay with them that you would be selling your books there.
Yes.
Be sure to ask that, because you don't want to be in a situation where you're making a business owner uncomfortable when you're trying to do a collaboration. And then if you're traditionally published and contractually can't sell your own books, check in with the business owner to see if it's okay to have one of the local bookstores, independent bookstores, come and do book sales when you're there doing your event. We've done that. That's worked out great. It's worked. That event you were just talking about in Leavenworth.
Yeah.
You had the bookstore, have the brewery selling books.
Yeah.
So,
A Book for All Seasons, which is the bookstore in Leavenworth, came over to Icicle Brewing and brought books. And so they managed all book sales because contractually, I'm not allowed to sell any of my own books with my traditional contracts. Now, if that was us with an indie title, we could have just brought our square and sold them directly. So as an indie author, this is, well, yeah, darlings, come on, although it is so cool, you just scan and the book pops up. It's so fancy.
it's tech.
It's tech. It is tech. We could talk about that. But I think as an indie author, this is a great opportunity to really expand your reach. And it's something I encourage all of my students to do because, again, going back to the idea of your book, your content, the audience that you're trying to reach. So thinking creatively and out of the book, so to speak, in terms of sort of art. I know I had to do it. Local partnerships that you can do. We did so much of that early on in my career. And that was just such a great way to make in-person connections with people too.
Yeah.
And I think at a time like this, we're really seeing that there's kind of this pendulum swing as we are in this very hyper digital age, that people are really hungry for third spaces and connections and places to go. So get creative.
Check with your local library too, because libraries was that on the list?
That was perfect. The next thing on my list is libraries. No jokes already.
I'll let you kick it off.
Oh, no, go. Keep going.
Well, I was just gonna say, libraries love to have authors come and do book talks as well. And that is, I don't do all libraries have friends of the library?
Most libraries have friends
Yeah.
at the library. Yeah.
And they can do the book sales. So that was a big bump. They can do the book sales for you, and that's a great way to get new readers in, because a lot of readers love to go to events at local libraries, and just like in independent bookstores, they're free for the public, and it's just a great way to make a great connection with your local librarian as well.
Yes. It's also a great way for, there's usually outreach that I do where I ask readers to request the book at their local library because local libraries will order books. And that's true for independent authors too, as long as your book is in the right system. So, that's outreach that you want to do shortly after the book is released, all throughout the year. Whenever a reader messages me and says, "I can't find your book at my local library," I automatically encourage them to put in a request at their local library. And most of the time, their librarian will order that book and then it will be in the system and in circulation.
Yeah.
To the Friends of Library point too, then they're making a profit of the book sales too. So it's going back to the library system, which is always great.
The other thing I was going to say about requesting the book is that it's not only if it's not there, but if it's a popular book and the wait is like 16 weeks or whatever
Yeah.
for a book, if you put in a request for most library systems they manage their ordering based on the holds and everything. And I know we've got a lot of librarians in your audience, so because we let librarians, they can reinforce this, but they try to, I mean, libraries have budgets too, right? So they can't do this for everything. But obviously, if a book has 40 holds on it, they will probably try to order more copies.
Yeah.
But that is true if they get more requests. So if they get 40 requests for the books, that's a signal to a librarian that maybe they need more than 1 or 2 copies of the book.
Yes. And libraries host a lot of events, independent author book fairs, so check your library's calendar for the year and see if there might be possible opportunities to pop in. If you're traditionally published, you can have your publicist take the lead on that. If you're an indie author, you can do obviously thoughtful, nice outreach to your local library, not with the expectation. And this is true no matter what your path to publication is, but always be kind, be gracious, make the ask. And then if it's a no, it's a no.
And they will say no.
Oh, definitely.
So don't take that personally. Sometimes it's not a great match. Sometimes they just don't have the time in the schedule, but don't hold it against them either.
Oh, right.
It has to be the right fit. And sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. So
yes. We could do a whole episode. I think we will at some point. In fact, I have a show note about writers behaving badly.
Oh, yeah.
Hint.
We got plenty of examples of it.
Don't be mean to your local librarian. You don't want that karma. Just well, see me. Well, don't be mean. Yeah, sure. There's also that. On the same note of libraries, one outreach that we've done that has been so fun that we need to do again, we've done it a couple times, is Little Free Library launch tours. I'm going to let you talk about it because this was actually your genius idea and we had a blast with this both times.
Yeah, both times. Although I've successfully used this as an excuse to get a new drone, which I got approved on this road trip. So look for some great new content coming soon. But we did this. Oh man, it was a long time.
The first one was in Ashland.
Yeah.
And then the second was the first year we moved to California.
Probably 7 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago when we did the first one. But I got this idea of hey, we've got all these copies of this new book that the publisher had sent for. I can't remember which book. It's one of the Bake Shop Mysteries.
Yeah.
But we got all these copies, and we had given some away on a live stream, and we had given some away on social media giveaways and stuff. But I wanted another fun way to give back that we could generate some content for, and I thought of this really cool shooting a video of Ellie walking around and basically putting copies in as many little free libraries as we could find. And we found some of the coolest little free libraries in Jackson County with Ashland and Talent and even out as far as Jacksonville.
Yep.
And we shot a little video and I set it to music and everything. I think it's up on your Instagram account, right? YouTube maybe
somewhere. Yeah.
But that was so fun to just because you wrote fun little notes in the front of the books and just we probably gave away 30 copies that day, so that was really cool.
And just a way that a new reader might be able to discover your work because they stumble upon a little free library and they happen to pick up your title, and then maybe you have a reader that's interested in previous books in the series or the next book that you write. I think this is a good segue. I'm going to skip down my list to giveaways. So
Okay.
What's important to know is in most traditional publishing contracts, you get an allocated number of author copies. It can be anywhere from 5 to 25. I'm sure some of the giant name authors get thousands, but my max that I've ever received from the publishers have been 25. And so those copies just come to me. They're free to me, and I can use them however I want. So a lot of times we've done giveaways. That's what we used for little free libraries. At this stage of my career, giveaways, I just it's so fun to be able to share and give back. But what I would not want to see a new author do is put a ton of their budget into giveaways. You could do this as an indie author. You could order your own author copies, assign them, and put them in little free libraries. You could do this as a newly published traditional author too. But they're kind of, giveaways can be a slippery slope because it costs you money. And Little Free Libraries was great. We spent money on getting a coffee that day and the gas to drive around. But anytime we do a giveaway, we are paying ourselves for the cost of shipping those books. So that can add up really quickly.
Yeah, especially when you factor in things like Canada.
Yes.
I
I
love
love you,
I
Canada.
love our
Yeah.
Canadian readers. Love you, love all of you. But and they will attest to this. It is extremely expensive to ship anything to Canada.
Right.
So you're shipping like a $9 book and it costs $22 to mail it, not counting the price of the packaging and everything. And it takes a while. So there is that to consider. And I would say giveaways are super fun, but they're not going to move the needle for especially for new authors. Like giveaways aren't going to like grow your readership by, hundreds or thousands of readers. They don't, they just, it's just not going to. It's a fun thing to do to kind of excite, you know, grow excitement within your reader base
Get
and
back to your reader base.
back to your reader base, everything like that. But it's not something that is going to gain you a lot of new readers. So that's just something to keep in mind. In addition to what you talked about, which is giveaways are expensive for the person giving away.
Yeah.
I know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, if we gave away 25 copies, that's 25 shipping packages, the cost of the packaging and the cost of the shipping itself. So just that right there, you're talking a couple $100s.
Yeah. It's usually about, besides the cost of the book is probably five for domestically to ship something media mail. It's probably about $5 between the packaging and the shipping costs. And then there's your time.
Yeah.
Like if you're giving away 25 things, that's 25 addresses you have to collect. It's 25 packages you have to put together. It's 25 packages to take to the post office, or put out for the carrier to pick up. It's just a lot of things to factor in. So it's definitely, giveaways are super fun and readers love them. And we have a lot of fun putting them together, but it's just something like, don't feel, as a new writer, definitely don't feel pressured into having to do them, often
Frequently,
and make
yeah.
them big.
Right.
all
Maybe
the
that
time.
could be like one part of your release week. You do like 1 or 2 giveaways. You give away a few copies at most. But it doesn't need to be something that's ongoing or breaking your bank for sure. One thing that I think is a fantastic use of your time and does not need to cost any money are social collaborations.
Yeah.
And we have had a blast with these over the years. I'm always open and excited to do new social collabs. One off the cuff one that we I touched my microphone again. We delighted so much in was The Bros That Bunt, When Nothing But Trouble came out. One of the Big Shop books. I can't even remember what number it is now. I think it was 12. Could have been.
Yeah, it was, I think, 11, because they came out right after a couple of holidays.
Okay, yeah, that's right. I reached out to the bros that bunt, and we did a live stream together because this was during COVID, and then they bunted cakes from the books. So cool.
Yeah, that was super fun. And they were just a fun bunch of people too. They were hilarious. It was just a bunch of friends.
Who met in college?
Who met in college. It was like 3 or 4 guys and 1 woman. So
There's a
they,
woman
they weren't all bros,
Bros.
but they were all friends, and they just got into baking buns of all shapes and sizes, and just they loved it. And they made some amazing bun cakes.
Yeah. So I sent them some free copies of the book. They made buns based on the book and then shared it with their audience. I shared it with my audience. So it's such great symmetry because you're expanding and getting new readers and they're getting new followers for their baking. Who else? Chell Sweets.
Oh yeah, cakes you made for
That was for a cup of holiday.
holiday for yeah. That was amazing.
A professional baker, someone who is giant on social media for all of her bakes, reaching out and being like, hey, I have this book coming out. I think so. This would be so fun to work together. Who else? Pie Lady Books. If you are a pie fan and a reader, I'm sure you've seen Pie Lady's gorgeous pies. She hand designs covers in pie. It's a thing of beauty. So,
Sorry. Every time living in California, I am and being a child of the 70s and 80s, every single time to this day that a California highway patrolman patrol officer drives by, I get the Chips theme song. Sorry. Yeah, and so if oh,
if you know, out. And also a cop just drove by us. So there's that, right? Yeah. Any sort of social collaboration that you can do that again goes back to the idea that you know your book better than anyone else, and you might have a brilliant idea in terms of who that partner or outreach might be to.
yeah, and keep in mind with these, it's a good idea to make sure that they are
My sunglasses.
right.
Yeah.
Uh, it's a good idea to make sure that the theme matches your book. That there would be that there's some sort of connection. And then also like with giveaways, some of these collaborations could be free. Some of them could be paid. I would just I would just stress for especially the new writers, authors out there, like, don't feel like you have to go spend thousands of dollars on doing one of these collaborations. You don't need to do a collaboration with somebody that has millions of followers. I mean, that'd be great, but that's going to cost you a lot of money. It's more, you finding the right people. Had you like the Bros at Bun is a perfect example. They had tens of thousands of followers, right? I don't remember,
But yeah,
they weren't massive. I mean, they had a lot more followers that you did at the time, and it just fit, and it was just such a great,
it was fun. Yeah,
you
exactly.
know. So just make sure the partnership makes sense for you.
Yeah, and another thing you don't wanna spend thousands of dollars on or go into with the expectation that, this partnership hits and you're gonna suddenly have 10,000,000 followers yourself. That's not the goal. The goal is to, just find new ways to make book connections out in the world.
Right, right. And yeah, I mean that's my whole point and like spending a lot of money on those unless the connection is like super tight. Uh you're gonna spend a lot of money and that person, might have 1.5 million followers, but if, one 1,499,000 of those people don't care about your book, then you're just not gonna grow your readership at all.
Exactly. Let's chat a little bit about live streams
Oh yeah.
on any of the social platforms.
Yeah. Um I think they're super important. People get excited about live, like seeing things live.
Same for me. Eras Tour. How
Right.
many times did I watch it live? I'm not gonna tell you.
Yeah. I used to like I remember uh during COVID when COVID was really bad and like things were locked down and stuff. Some of our favorite musicians, like the T Sisters, for example, started doing just like they do like a new concert every Wednesday just in their house, and they would live stream it on Instagram, and it was super fun, and there were thousands and thousands of people that watched, and listened, every time, and so we've started doing live streams. We used to this goes back to last week's episode of work-life, harmony, but we did a lot more live streams in the past than we do now, and we kind of pared it back because we have so many other projects going. It is really difficult to do them all the time. But for your book launch, a live stream, if you can do one,
Yes.
I think is really important.
I think so too. It's just a great way that you can have a party and celebrate your release with a lot of people. I always get so excited on live stream night because it's having conversations with you, the darlings. Like, we all are friends. Other people have made friends through the live stream. Like, there is just such great community that happens.
I get super excited too after I get everything set up and I hit go live and I see that we're live on all the channels that we're supposed to be live on, then I get excited.
Then you get excited.
I get excited.
Especially when you know then the sound is working.
Right.
The thing.
Yeah. Before the live goes is going for the first few minutes, it's a little nerve wracking, but
Weird. I never see.
yes, that's why I'm in a different room off camera.
Well, we're never like this. That's funny. Um, then one thing that you want to work into your ongoing social plan is consistent posts about the book that's out,
Yeah.
upcoming titles. It never ceases to amaze me. I will feel like I have posted 10, 15, 20 times about a book that's coming out in the next few months. And inevitably, I will get an email or a DM from a reader saying, I had no idea that this book was coming out. Like, it's shocking to me.
Yeah, and this is if you take nothing else away from this podcast, if you're a writer out there that is looking to get published or is newly published or whatever, social media is hard and it is a long game. You very few, like less than 1% of posts just get put out there and like are lightning in a bottle. The rest of them, there's just hundreds and hundreds of millions of posts that just are never seen by people's followers. And so it doesn't matter if you have 200 followers or 200,000 followers. Most of your posts aren't going to be seen by the majority of your following.
And you're saying follow people who are actively follow, not just trying to reach new readers or, yeah.
So most of your posts are not going to be seen by the majority of your following. So, that sounds terrible, and it really is if you put a lot of work into your social media content. But that's why it is a long game, because you have to build on what you're doing. You have to keep posting and getting engagement, and the algorithm will pick that up and say, okay, this person is putting out meaningful content that their followers enjoy and they're engaging with it. They're not just liking it, scrolling right by. They're commenting on it. They're sharing it. So speaking of which, when you see Ellie's content, don't just like it and scroll on by, comment on it, share with a friend, please, because that's the only way that word gets spread. Because like you, it never ceases to amaze me. We put in so much work, and then a month after a book is out, somebody will comment on a post because you keep posting about the book. And they'll be like, oh, a new bake shop. I'm so excited. And we're like, what? Yeah, this is the first time, it just, it is funny. But it's important to keep that up. You might feel like you're just bombarding your followers with news about this book that released, within the last week or month or whatever. But I can guarantee you that a very, very tiny percentage of your audience has actually seen the 2 or more of those posts the whole time that you've been communicating that stuff. I'm not saying post every day, like 3 times a day about your book. That's not going to help. That's actually going to drive your engagement or average rate down. But I am saying, like, don't worry if you're posting, 2 or 3 times a week about the book, and then, maybe the other days of the week posting about something you're doing for the book, but you should keep that going.
Yeah, and you want to consistently do that throughout the year too.
Yes.
Press outreach is another key thing, and there's a whole piece that you do pre-launch. And I'm not just talking about like traditional press, like your local ABC, NBC affiliate. Now, if you're doing some kind of really cool big launch, if you're partnering with your local coffee shop for this coffee tasting, like why not send a press release out about that? Will they cover it? Who knows? There's a better chance that they would cover that than, just like an unknown author doing their first book signing. I am encompassing things like booktubers, any bookstagrammers, podcasts.
They're talking about like social media book tour.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I do think that there is a place for traditional media too, as long as you're doing the right kind of pitch. And we go into this in more detail into the course, because if you're talking about sending a true press release, then you need to have some hooks in there. But reaching out to bookstagrammers, booktubers to see if you can do a live stream together with them. Maybe go live on Instagram together, or send them a copy of your book. Any kind of outreach that you can do on that. Podcasters, exactly. Reach out to your favorite podcasters and see if they're interested in guests. Hint, hint. We might have some guests coming in 2025.
Maybe in the backseat.
Right? Yes. This could be, it's like carpool karaoke. Yes. Carpool.
Reality Rights on Wheels.
Reality Rights on Wheels. Okay. Yes. I'd love it. But that's another thing to do throughout the year. And watching for opportunities like that might come out. This is just a small portion. We need part 2 and to go deeper into the course, because there are multiple things that we're not even going to have time to touch on this one. But I'm rounding out last, but certainly not least. And if anything, I think you in particular would say perhaps the most important, an author newsletter.
So yeah, an author newsletter is like, it's a mandatory as far as I'm concerned, because, and here's the thing, like, yes, it's one more thing that you have to do content wise. You have to come up with things to say to your subscribers. You have to get a service that will let you, keep subscribers and send newsletters to them and everything. There are a million of those out there. Flowdesk, MailerLite, MailChimp, like all these, are great examples of services that help you with newsletter and newsletter marketing and stuff. But the number one reason is what we just talked about, where we covered with social media. When you send out, when you post on like Instagram, for example, and let's say you have 10,000 followers, there are like a couple hundred of your followers that are going to see that post. Then they do that as a test to see, okay, what's the engagement like? And if the engagement is really high, then a few hundred more followers will see it. Then if the engagement is still high, maybe a couple thousand followers will see it, and so on and so forth. But if you send out a post and there's little to no engagement, that's it. It's done. Like, none of your followers are going to see that. With an email newsletter, your engagement rate is going to be a lot higher, because that is going to make it into almost everybody's inbox. And we could go on. We could have a whole episode on this, because there are a lot of things that you need to do to make sure they don't get captured by spam filters, so on and so forth. But you also own that subscription list too. You don't own your Instagram follower list. Like, Instagram could decide tomorrow they're locking everybody's account, and you got to pay $100 a month to access, your followers.
Or like TikTok, if it's going away later at the end of this month, I have 10,000 plus 14,000, I don't even know, like TikTok followers, and all the content that I like.
Congress person and your senators now, save it, and let them know, do not ban TikTok. But anyway, you don't own the lists of your followers. That is 100% the content of the social media platform, and they decide not only who sees your content, but if anyone sees your content at all. Whereas with an email newsletter, you own all of that content. You can run giveaways through your newsletter, and you don't have to adhere to all the extra rules and everything that the social media platforms make people adhere to. You can, you can control the frequency a lot better. There's no algorithm. It's just like going to be going into people's inboxes, and they will, open it as they see fit. So it also doesn't go away. That's the other thing with some of the feeds are just like never ending on social media, never ending feeds of content. And so unless they open it up at the right time, they might not see yours. Yours might already be buried under 100 other posts. Whereas the newsletter, yes, they'll go into the inbox, and maybe somebody has thousands of messages in there, but it's still in there, and they can search for it and find it a lot easier than they can any social media post.
Absolutely. And the last thing that I'll say about newsletters is you can have a lot of fun with them. I love writing the newsletter. I love sending it out, because then readers email me, and I get to hear stories about your lives, darlings, and we get to have a conversation back and forth, which is so lovely. And I have friends who do really fun, interesting, cool things with their newsletter. I have a friend who she actually lays out a newspaper each month from her village that she writes about and sends that to her newsletter subscribers. So if you are a writer and you're thinking about what you're going to do with your newsletter, use it as a way to expand the world that you're writing about too, and give readers a taste of your process, of your characters, anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is great. And there's so many benefits, and it's like I said, you own that list, so what you can guarantee that your readership is going to be able to get the news that you want them to get about your books.
That was exhausting, and literally there is so much more that we could add, but it's all part of the process of being a writer in 2025 and beyond. So, with that, we're signing out this episode of Reality Writes on Wheels and saying until next time, darling.
Until next time.